Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, I'm so happy to have you. So my previous subscribers, welcome back to the channel. So for today's video in particular, we're going to be talking about the fraction within Congress and the Senate. Specifically, more so than anything, it's going to be in the Congress. So we'll take a quick look at that. I was asking my guys, what do I need to cover today? And they were like, the most important thing you need to cover right now will be the fraction that is happening within Congress, plus the two parties. There's going to be a fracture that is starting to take place. They're starting to see that within the Democratic Party, but also within its own supporter base, which means that the Democratic Party is going to split and the Republican Party is going to split. I always said that I always saw the Democrats splitting first, and then the Republicans. And so that's how it's going to play out. The Republicans are going to be more unified in the front. The Democrats are going to be the first ones to split and break up. It's going to be more so the moderate, the conservative, and the progressive, and then the Republicans are also going to split within this kind of similar dynamic, except with the exception of moderate is going to be replaced with extremism. So that's how it's going to be broken up in the United States coming towards the future. But as of right now, it's the very start of it. So we're going to take a look at it, see what's going on. Let's see if we can analyze this thing. Let's see what spirit means, what they're trying to tell me. Maybe it might be something entirely different. But let's go ahead. Let's see what's happening, and we'll go from there. Now, this video is being recorded on none other than Wednesday, March 5th at 11:38 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, as of when I am recording this specific video. So it is after 45 gave his joint special speech to Congress. So thank you for those of you guys who corrected me. I was a little confused because some people kept saying it was the State of the Union, others were saying the joint to Congress. I ended up changing it to the joint to Congress. Thank you for those of you guys who corrected me in the comments. So anyway, let's go ahead and let's begin. Let's see what's happening. Let's see what the energies are, and we go from there. Now, if you want to help out the channel grow in any formality, you can do so by liking, commenting, subscribing, hitting the bell icon, or even commenting in the comment section below or watching the video longer than normal. You'll be telling the algorithm, hey, I like this content, show me more. You'll be showing my content, other astrologers, and other psychics as well. So it helps me, helps you, helps everybody. Now, if you also want to be notified when I do post and upload, you can do that by going into the comment section or the notification in the comment section below and notify yourself by subscribing to my Facebook group or my Blue Sky account, and I will personally notify you when I do post and upload. Alright, so we have a lot to get through today. Let's begin. Let's go from there. Now, if you're wondering why I'm always in this room, because I made a deal with my parents that in order for me to continue doing this YouTube channel, I would have to be in a closed space where I don't wake my sister up. So I've been waking her up both at nighttime, I've been waking my parents up at night and waking my sister up in the morning when I do it on the table. So now I have to do it in this room. So fun for me. I have to get up at 6:30 in the morning just to do this. So there's that. There's nothing I can do. I've been cleaning up my studio, trying to get it all ready and situated, but until it's ready, we're here. Not my ideal place. I'm sure it's not your ideal place, but we have to make do with the circumstances that we are dealt. But that's it. All right, anyway, let's begin. I'm not wasting your time. I'm not wasting my time. All right, so let's see. Let's see what Spirit has to say. All right, so Spirit and Angels, tell me about what are we getting in terms of information regarding the quote-unquote fraction. Now, we talked about an earthquake a while back in the month of March, and I said that it wasn't going to be a literal earthquake, so this has to do with an earthquake revolving around the fracture ongoing in Congress. Okay, there's a challenge here, a fracture, if you will. Last information you have on the fracture. Oops, I hate when you bend my cards. Bottom of the deck, we have the Three of Pentacles, which means the legislative, the checks and balances of the United States, the Constitution involving around the checks and balances, where the judicial branch is a check and balance on the executive branch is a check and balance on the legislative branch is a check and balance on the judicial and the executive. Alright, at the top of the deck here, we have the Tower card reverse. And here we have the Seven of Pentacles reversed. Which means a lot of things are happening and it's not so major. A lot of things are happening, even though the Tower card is reversed. Even though the Tower card is reversed, even though the Seven of Pentacles is reversed, this means one thing is happening among many things. There's a lot of things happening all at once. And that's what the Tower card is indicating. Now, though it's reversed, it's saying a lot of things are happening all at once. Which means it's going to start to take place, which is why the cards were reversed. The two cards were reversed in the first place. Now, let's go into the reading now. We actually have a couple of information here. So we're understanding the center here. I'm getting a fracture. You're starting to notice here the line between the Tower cards. It kind of creates like a fracture. It's not even. That it was designed by my guys. So when I do my readings and do my spread, it's kind of like based on what they tell me and where to put them. I just put them wherever. And you're starting to notice that it's not exactly straight. Where you find these two cards here are straight. These two cards are kind of straight, but there's a clear fracture going from the left into straightness again, right? There's that fracture, fragment element, which is very significant because we're talking about the quote-unquote, the fracture, if you will. And now, go into, let me just move back a little further for you guys. Here, so going into more so the other aspect of everything, we have on the left side here, we have the Four of Wands. The Four of Wands is a very significant card because it symbolizes Congress, also symbolizes the governmental institution, right? The building, the foundation of something. The foundation is starting to crumble, and people will have to choose whether they want to stay in the foundation and stay underneath without a hazmat hat and witness it collapse upon their head. And that essentially means when I talk about something collapsing or a structure collapsing, right? It means that you could choose to walk away and just allow it to collapse naturally because it's going to collapse whether you want it to collapse or not. It's going to collapse. But essentially what this is essentially saying here is that you could choose to put a hazmat hat on, but you could stay within the rumble and kind of be among the mess, or you can just choose to leave now and just let it fall. Just let it fall. Essentially what it's saying, like there is we can't stop the fracture. The earthquake already started. Okay, that's what it means. The earthquake has already started. The fracture has begun. And you could choose to be in the mess, or you could choose to watch it from the third eye perspective. That is entirely up to you. But it's how you choose to perceive it will determine your outlook on life. Right? The first card that we got here that first came up was the Seven of Cups. The Seven of Cups means opportunity, potential, right? There is some sort of misinformation. It's all the same thing. It's that illusion that's being cast to you saying, oh, look here, look here, look here, look here, look here. The Seven of Cups is telling you this is the news media, right? It's giving that false sense of illusion that the media is telling you what you need to know. They're giving you information. It's not giving you information. That's why the Seven of Cups is here. Because it's all within the same cloud, which means they all have the same agenda. They give you that false illusion that you have a freedom of choice. So, for example, the best way I could explain it is Hershey, right? Hershey bar chocolates. They own many companies of many little minor companies. They bought out a whole market of cookies and chocolates, whatever. Now, because when you go to the store, you're thinking you're not buying Hershey, but not knowing that you're buying Hershey, but you're buying an off brand. Because the company of Hershey brought that company out, therefore, you're buying Hershey brands, but you don't know you're buying Hershey brand. It's that sense of false illusion, the false outcome of choice, right? That is the problem with the United States. The problem is a lot of things have been given to you as so many options that we feel as if we actually have a say in things. You actually don't. Because if you really had a say in thing, you would actually have a limited options, but each company will own one or two different items. The same exact thing is here. What it's saying is that false illusion that one person is telling you the truth over the other. They all have the same agenda. They're all telling you the same thing. You may think that, oh, I'm watching CNN. But they have the same agenda as Fox News, or ONN, and MSNBC. They all have the same agenda. It does not matter what way you watch it. It's legacy media here. Part of the fracture is legacy media. The next thing here, we have the emperor, the executive, the presidential, right? The last president, right? Here's the emperor, the executive power, the authoritarian ruler, right? Part of the fracture that's coming, that is starting to crack, is that control. Because you have the media is the first one to go. Once the media goes in, the authoritarian ruler can rule, and he can rule effectively, because he can do whatever he needs to do to spill out whatever he needs to do, and because of that, the media gave him power. The media is to blame for 45's rise, and not the other way around. The media set him up. It's not by coincidence either. And I'll go into deep detail on how they knew and how they figured it out. This was not something that was planned in 2000. It wasn't something planned in the 80s. This was planned well before that. That they knew that he was coming. So some way they knew it. Here you have the Ten of Wands reversed. The Ten of Wands means a lack of struggle, lack of pushback, a lack of resistance, right? The lack of resistance in this aspect, the coming lack of resistance not only from the Republicans, but also from the American people in some aspect, in some sort of the population, the general population, but also talking about from the Democrats as well. The Democrats are going out there with signs that says he lied, this is not normal, etc., etc., etc. American people don't consider that resistance. They just consider that as lazy. You're just doing the bare minimum. They want action, right? So there is a fragment that's not only going on within the Democratic Party, but also a fragment within the Republican Party as well. There is a new party that's going to be on the rise soon. I will be talking about the first independent president of the United States, one that comes to be. It will be a male. It will not be a female, it will be a male. It will be specifically a white male. Hold on, I take it back. A white mixed Latino male. That's what it feels like. But going into the right side here, we have the Knight of Pentacles. The Knight of Pentacles is reversed, which means something is fast-paced. Fast-paced movement, right? The country will become broke under 45. That's for certainty, right? The country will become broke under 45. That's 100% certain. That's not going to take a psychic prediction out of that. But what it is important, though, is that despite the Knight of Pentacles here indicating that there is a loss of money and income within the fraction, so these four cards here are indicating what is enabling the quote-unquote earthquake or fracture within the United States Congress, the United States. So this is giving us the story of the United States and how we get here. But in order for us to really understand the fracture, we need to understand the dynamic that lead us to this point. That is why I'm explaining things as if they already had happened, because they did, right? These are the way the cards are coming in. They're coming in with these energetic frequencies, and they're saying to me, okay, these are the fraction. This whole entire reading is talking about the fraction, how we get to where we are now. In order to understand the fraction, you need to understand how we got here first. So hang tight. We will get to the second part of this reading. Now, the next card here, the challenge to that media, the challenge to that illusion of choice, if you will, right? The illusion of free choice of will, or essentially that's what it is. We have the Hanged Man, right? There are two different dynamics that play here. The Hanged Man is two different dynamics, right? On the left side here, we have the lake. And the lake, for me, the red color symbolizes dark, hateful energy. Energy of having others, specifically in the media, tell you what to believe. That is why it's in the past tense. Because when the card is faced in a very specific way, it means heading towards the future, right? So the vent, which is where the feet is, this is upright, this is reverse. Hold on, this is reverse, and this is upright. Because the lake is heading towards the vent, which means that energy, that media, where the media and people believe whatever they're being told and being fed into that is ending. And what's coming towards the future is enlightenment. Knowing your own power, knowing your own truth. That's your Aquarian energy. Despite the card heading towards the past entirely, the Hanged Man was mean the feeling of Americans feeling restricted, that they can't do anything. That is heading towards the past. What's coming towards the future? Well, I'm glad you asked, because the next card is here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The Seven of Wands. The people will rise up here underneath the emperor, underneath the authoritarian regime, We saw this yesterday with this guy, Al Green, Congressman Al Green, who actually, ironically enough, reason why he was expelled and suspended from Congress was specifically because he voiced an opposition against the viewpoint of the president. And because of that, he was expelled from Congress during that speech last night. But also, it also signified a very significant movement. It signifies the resistance are happening within government. The question is, are enough people standing up? The problem what happened last night with Democrats, the Democrats didn't do anything to prevent that guy from being extradited out. They didn't do anything. They stood by and let him be extradited out because one person stood up, the rest stood by. The reason why Germany and Hitler was able to do what he did was not because the bad people allowed it, was because the people who said they were good just stepped by and did nothing. Right? That is how we got to that point. That's how Germany got to where it was. And we're in a repetitive motion here. The Democrats are just as complicit as the Republicans. Whether you want to believe that or not, that's entirely up to you. But the Democrats are complicit. There are some Democrats who are not, like AOC, Al Green, those who are actually speaking out, trying to protest and trying to do something. Those people I give them credit for, even Bernie Sanders. But there are a whole bunch of Democrats who are actually complicit in them. And you will talk about in another video how the Democrats are actively engaged in the plan of 45. So there is a lot of Democrats there within the Democratic Party who are actually engaged in this type of behavior. This is not abnormal. This is actually something that's common in government because it's that sense of illusion that, hey, listen, I voted for the opposition, but they can just lie to your face. I mean, look at Kristen Sinema. Look at Joe Manchin. Right? They were voted as Democrats. Didn't mean they represent the Democratic value of who voted it. Look at John Fetterman, right? Same thing. The idea here is that a lot of people get this idea, oh, just because you have a Democrat by your name means that you're a good person. No, it does not. And I have no problem saying the opposite against what other people say because I'm not afraid to get, penalized for that. There are bad Democrats just as there are good Democrats, right? There are bad Democrats too, and I will call them out. Now, underneath the Ten of Wands reversed here, we have the Judgment. And the Judgment card is reversed because it's very indicative. It talks about the freedom of speech here, the freedom of speech, the freedom to speak freely, right? It's that pushback, right? That 45 is authoritarian regime. This is telling about the fracture. It feels like very much about the speech last night. I don't know much about what happened except that Al Green was being forced out of Congress. That's all that I know. And underneath that Judgment card reverse, it's saying that freedom of speech is limited, which is why that resistance is so important against authoritarian regime. Is that as long as the resistance is being shown, those who are in power, those who are on the inside, can feel emboldened to do something. So the more you resist, the more emboldened the people from within, the resistance from within, can do something. The more you resist from the outside, the more the people from inside can be emboldened to resist. Now, underneath that Knight of Pentacles reverse, we have the Nine of Swords. The Nine of Swords is that mental capability, right? Something is fast-paced, something is moving very fastly. But it's not something that is upset to the American people, right? This is not something that's upset to the American people. So now we're starting to understand the fracture that's happening within the United States. We talk about the Congress and the government here, right? That they can choose to walk by and let it collapse. It's going to collapse whether they want it to or not. The government in the U.S. is going to collapse. That's without a doubt. This is talking about what happened last night, right? And talking about the fracture that began, the earthquake, the giant earthquake. It set the stage for how the next couple of days, the next couple of weeks, within the month of March, going to early April, are going to start to signify. This card here, on this row here, indicates the people, the American people. This represents 45 in the administration and things that he is doing. President Elon, and Vice President 45, and J.D. Vance, who's the side chick. These are the people, this is the administration, right? And this, I don't know what is yet, so I'm going to explore that right now. This actually is the Three of Cups, right? This is the celebration. And the first time I'm getting the celebration within the White House. I'm getting the celebration. So I don't know if there was a party, whether or not there was a party, but there was some sort of celebration from last night. There was a victory celebration that they managed to get it through. Like, it was a success. It went well. They were happy how it happened. They made sure everything was in order. Everything went as they wanted, which means that everything that happened last night, whatever happened, went as planned. That they initiated. They knew that this was going to happen. This went as planned. Here, the next card is the Five of Wands. Because of him expelling Al Green, essentially it gave the president the power, the enormous power to say no one on the Congress stood up against Al Green. Yes, a lot of them laughed, but that's not power, right? This Five of Wands here reversed indicates that he was given the power that he wanted because no one dared to stood up to him except one. One was removed, the rest of them stayed until the very end, until they started leaving. But still, the whole story is that he got enormous power out of it. This is exactly what he wanted. And that he knew exactly what the Democrats were. The Democrats were divided. They were not consistent on their messaging. That's part of the problem. The Democrats have a fracture going on here. They have a fracture within the messaging system. And 45 knew that he exploited that. The Republicans, however, are going to experience their fracture after the Democrats. But the Democrats are going to be the first one to go. And then the Republicans will go. And then the United States government will collapse. That is how it's going to happen. But here is the King of Swords. And the King of Swords is that incumbent. The incumbent. The power of the incumbent. He feels like king. Now, I know a lot of you guys are probably scared right now, and rightfully so, but don't ever be scared. Be informed, right? That's the best way that we can do things. Remember, back then in Germany, they didn't have this. They didn't have people like me and you. They didn't have the luxury of knowing what's happening in their country, what's going on. They were ignorant. Ignorance is a bliss, if you will. The less you know, the better. But it also hurts you because you're not informed. You're not seeing different perspectives. You're not seeing different viewpoints. Half the people in Germany knew what was happening. They would have been a little bit more resistant to it. The thing is that back then, they didn't have this luxury. They didn't really get to speak to everybody. They didn't get to see other people's viewpoints. They didn't. Because they just believed the media. We have the luxury of having different viewpoints, but also to come with a side point, which is misinformation, which also is a form of information. Whether we want to admit that or not, misinformation is information. Whether you want to admit it or not, it is something that is in our reality. Something that was very well prevalent in Germany and all these other countries, known as propaganda, but now it's been modernized and fit the terminology of misinformation. It's the same thing, same concept, same idea, different wording, same meaning. Now that we understand the fraction, the story of the fraction, my guys, we are now going to ask the cards, what do we need to know about the fraction? And then we'll end the reading. Now that you have told us about what the fraction is, Spirit, what did you mean that I had to do to cover the fracture? Now that you asked me to do the video and you told me everything I need to know about how we got to where we are now, can you explain to me what we need to know now? Now that we understand completely what the fracture is. Okay. Okay, here's what I'm getting. The words I'm getting from this card as I'm placing down, understanding the fracture at a more deeper level, I'm getting the wording and the saying, the Red Scare was a success. The Red Scare was a success. They completed what they needed to do. This was not something that was started from the very beginning. This wasn't something that just happened because of 45. This was something that was initiated in the 50s under the Soviet Union. I think Joseph Stalin, I believe. But it has been completed. The plan has been completed. And it's funny, but also very ironic that is how it played out. Here you have the Queen of the Wands. The Queen of Wands reversed, which means America falls. The Lady Liberty falls in some way. The fracture within the U.S. is because we have been so consumed by what's around us, we didn't realize what was consuming us. And here we have is the Two of Pentacles. Decision has been made. The decision is final. Alright, so for those of you guys who are not familiar with the Red Scare is actually, believe it or not, it's known as the McCarthyism, or the Red Scare. So I'm going to look it up and show you what it is, just a little bit of description. Red Scare. And then we'll talk about, in the next video, what will happen to the U.S. going forward. Like, what is the future? Like, will things get better from here on out? I have confidence in it. Remember, I've been telling you in my second books, as well as that the media is not going to report good things, which means we're not going to be told good things. We're just going to be told bad things. And that's part of the problem. Because we're going to think that bad things always happen and not realizing very much so that it's a little bit more than anything else. Well, actually, it started in 1917. So the first Red Scare was a period during the early 20th century history of the United States marked by widespread fear of, quote, far-left movements, including Bolshevism and Anarchism, due to real and imagined events. Real events include the Russian 1917 October Revolution, German Revolution of 1918 and 19. Yeah, so people in the 1940s and 1950s were primarily afraid due to the, quote, Red Scare, a period of intense paranoia about communism infiltration within the United States, fueled by the Cold War with the Soviet Union, which included fears of a nuclear war and widespread suspicion of potential communist spies within American society, often amplified by figures like Senator Joseph McCarthy and the House Un-American Activity Committee. But it's kind of interesting that we had Kevin McCarthy not too long ago as House Speaker again. It's very interesting how it all just kind of circled around again, like how everything just kind of repeats in a repetitive cycle. Okay, so let's take a look. It's very interesting because America has been founded on these things. We actually went through the witch trials, right? The Red Scare is very similar to the witch trials in almost every single way, with the mere exception of black magic. But that's just a different plot with the same concept. It's like, think of it this way. Juliet and Romeo and Juliet type of story, right? There have been many modifications to the story, but with the same concept, same thing. Okay, going into the faction, what we need to know from Spirit about the faction. Well, the first thing we get here, heading towards the future, the 10 stores, right? What is the betrayal? There is a betrayal coming within the faction itself, the ending. We have here the Wheel of Fortune. The story is not yet over. The story is starting to turn now. The faction is starting to begin. The Wheel of Fortune, there is an ending to something, but it's a betrayal to the story. Right? The story of the United States is not supposed to end like this, which tells me the United States is going to continue going forward, just in a very different direction. Now, what's heading towards the down part, which is to the right, we have the Four of Swords. And the Four of Swords is again talking about the ending of the current political dynamic, the current political systems in the United States, the end of the ideology of the United States, which means it's the end of the Republic. Right, the end of that representative republic democracy style government that we had that was founded off the basis of the Roman Empire. Now we have, going to the next card here, we have the Nine of Cups, looking at the bigger picture, but not seeing the small things behind you, right? There are little things that are leading up to this very moment, leading up to this fracture, right? That is why Spirit was telling us we have to, in order for us to understand what the fracture is, we have to go back to how we got here, how we got to this very point, right? We have here, in that card, it's the Four of Pentacles. It means holding on to power, not relinquishing it, right? America's hold, appeasement. It's talking about, to me, imperialism. Here we have the Hermit card, darkness, a period of darkness. America holding on to its darkest hours, to its darkest days. What part of the problem that led to this fracture is that the United States had not necessarily healed the part of the problem, the most darkest days of the United States were from within. And because it's not able to heal that aspect, it has to learn from it again. That's what the darkest thing is. The darkest Hermit card, which is reversed, with the Four Pentacles right behind it, is telling me that the darkest days of the United States are supposed to be behind us. But because we did not learn from it, is now ahead of us, because we have to learn to accept for all that we are and love every part of us, whether we have shadow side and the light side. You need to be able to accept both in order to move forward. We have not done that. Think about it this way. The best way I could describe it is you go in the United States, you see a whole bunch of Holocaust museums, but not much in terms of Black history or slavery or anything like that in terms of like what they call it, acknowledging Native Americans, what happened to Native Americans, the concentration camps of Asian Americans. We did not do anything like that. We don't see it anywhere because the United States cannot admit that it was wrong. That is part of the problem with the fracture. That is why it's ongoing. We are in the Pluto return. We are in the height of Pluto return. The Pluto return is you either evolve and accept you for who you are and become better, or you will crumble to your knees. The United States is going through that fracture now. It has to understand. It has to accept and love every part of itself, even the darkest and even the lightest, to be able to move forward. If America cannot do that, it will fall. The next card here is we have the Hangman reverse. The Hangman reverse is, again, that enlightenment card. It's talking about that enlightenment, going above the darkness, going above that darkness, right? You have the darkness here and the light here. Exactly what I said. You can't make this up. Again, it's the idea, that concept that we can rise above it. Remember, the red pants that we talked about earlier in the video symbolizes the darkness, the energy of hatred and, separating yourself from who you are. This means to accept yourself in mind, body, and spirit. Who are you? And that what leads us to the Ten of Swords. We're leading as a stepping stone to the Ten of Swords, which is heading towards the future. Which means that the fracture is starting to happen here from America's past. America's past is coming to the forefront. Its purpose. Who is America now? That is what that Ten of Swords means. The ending, the betrayal, the story of the wheel starts to move and grind. Not in the right direction, might not be in the direction it's supposed to be in, but it's moving now. Because there's energies propelling the Ten of Swords to push the wheel in a direction it does not want to go in. And here you have the Fool card reverse. There will be a sense of clarity and understanding, but there will be a sense of falling as well. One may fall, but the other shall rise. Whatever that may mean, one may fall, the other shall rise. But the same concept is, things are getting higher, things are getting better, right? You're not acting like a fool. You cannot be a fool. You have to be known to what's going on. So this is the energy what's leading to the Ten of Swords, what spins the wheel, which leads us to the Four of Swords here, which tells us all about this energy and the momentum of an ending to the current system, the current republic with the United States. And it leads us exactly to here and this point, which is seeing the bigger picture, but also not acknowledging what's behind it, what's lead us to where we gotta go and where we are. So the fracture and everything here, these four cards here, which is the Four of Pentacles, the Hermit card reverse, the Hangman reverse, and the Fool card reverse, represented here behind in this picture, which is represented in the Nine of Cups. While this man is looking at the bigger picture, you gotta see how we got here and what the fracture is moving us toward. Where is the fracture moving us? Either to darkness to light. America is still deciding where it wants to go. It can go through healing and it can accept both the dark and the light together and become one unifying force. But regardless of what it is, the United States, as we know, is ending. It's done. It's over. But a new formation will take place. And what is that new formation? That's what's here now. The new formation, now that we talked about, even though this is like Russia and the Red Scare has won, it's not going to be forever. Okay, it's not going to be forever. We know that it's not forever because there is, again, that fraction. Right? They can have it. They can have it. They can have the United States as we have it now. But they won't hold it forever because the United States government needs to collapse. Which means that this is a failed experiment. Yes, the Red Scare has been successful, but it's a failed experiment for the Red Scare because they decided to seize power when it's too late. The United States is over. So the United States is ending. But the United States as we know, it doesn't mean the United States as the country is ending. What the United States government and how we function, how we operate, how we do things are ending. The traditions are over. This card here tells us although the Red Scare has won, it's not for long because it will collapse when the government collapses from the within. Let it run its course. is what it's saying. Let it run its course. Let it lead us to this moment, this realization. But here's what's coming towards the United States in the future. The energy, the aura. The United States as you know it now is done. It's over. It's completed. Gone. Here we have the star card. The star card is the initiation, the original 13 colonies, right? The star card, equilibrium. It's finding that equilibrium and to create new amenities, create new things, a new world, a new perspective, a new understanding about who we are. The magician card is saying, knowing who we are and standing true by that. Saying your story, the magician. Saying your story and acknowledging that we can make amends, that we can come together. I'm seeing two people right now in my third eye. One person is crying, saying that they didn't know, while the other person is consoling them. The person who was a victim is the one who was consoling the one who had been misled. This is very interesting because it tells me here that these people were so ignorant through history and the world around them that they themselves feel victimized by what has happened, that they themselves feel a sense of guilt, that they themselves perpetuated it. What the Star card and the Magician card is also telling us that despite all this energy, despite all this hate, it's due to misinformation. And they're saying that those people, not all of them, are at fault. For example, it's saying that, like, just say, for example, a state like Arkansas, which barely has any education system at all, they themselves don't know better. So how can they do better if they don't know? What the Star card and Magician card is saying is, understand by walking in their shoes and accept the shadow from within. And show them love can still win. Remember, in all my readings in the past, love wins, always. It always showed that in the end of all this, when the country collapsed and everything, love wins at the end. Love wins. The problem is, in order to heal the dark past of the United States, despite the darkness that's coming ahead in the U.S., the Star card and the Magician card is saying that we can come together and accept each other for our differences, despite the fact of everything we went through. You can say, I love you, and I accept you for who you were, but we can do better together. We can do better together, and we will get you there. We will work with you to get you to a better place. The problem is, the United States in this point in time, when it couldn't understand how to heal its side, it did not understand the connection that people were misled, they were misinformed, they were led in that direction of no choice, not knowing what's right from wrong. Like Germany went through this healing phase. They accepted, and they made sure that nothing like that can happen again. But the US, we did not do that. That is our karma. We did not do it. And therefore, this is coming up. And they're saying here that the Star card and the Magician card is saying not to repeat this mistake, when it's said to accept and love each other for who we are. And yes, it's not telling you to accept the hatred, but accept those who want to do better. For those who didn't know, for those who didn't understand about what has happened, what's been taking place, for those who are not informed correctly, understand them, tell them you love them, and then help guide them. That is what the Star card and the Magician card is. And I get it, it's hard because it is so difficult. For example, and I get it, it's very hard. The best way that I could describe it is, for example, you have a neo-Nazi who does not like black people, right? But his neighbor is black. And this was actually a true story, I believe. The neo-Nazi who was a white supremacist, the black guy was not afraid to invite the white supremacist over. The white supremacist was very hesitant. But he went over because he realized neighbors first to see what he's all about. And he realized over time that the black guy there was nothing bad about him. And over time, the white supremacist ideology, which has been ingrained in him, just left him. Because you can undo your programming. And sometimes it takes experience to understand that program. Remember, I mentioned Arkansas. Arkansas is not an area with high diversity. And therefore, places with low diversity don't have a lot of experiences. They don't understand what kind of damage that they are doing because they don't see them as human. Once people start to see the humanity in others, they were able to understand the the action of themselves. Right? When people understand what humanity is, and they're able to see each other as humans, not as objects, not as numbers, not as figures, not as less than, not as inferior, they will come together as better. That is what it's saying here, is that we have to do our part. We have to let them know and give them the experience that, listen, we're not all different. We are all the same. And that we can have a better experience if we just know how to coexist side by side. And I know that that is very difficult to say because all of humanity had not really been anything but that. It had been nothing about this. It had never been about peace. But we're moving into a lighter energy, moving to a better direction. And in order to get there, we have to get to the point of coexistence. And the Emperor's card here is coming into that balance. And when humans learn to coexist, nature heals. Nature heals. Nature is also a part of this. The United States is actually to be blamed for a lot of the problems around the globe, specifically around revolution, around the desolation of the environment. The United States, every time it takes a 5 step forward, it takes 4 steps back. And it never really progresses forward, it always goes back and back and back. Excuse me. The United States takes 6 steps forward, the US takes 7 steps back. That's the problem. The world is moving ahead, the US is going behind, and it's going to get some major natural disasters. And because of that, the US is going to suffer because of nature. Nature is going to win. And nature is going to force. So what it's saying here is that there are going to be a couple of things that's happening. Despite the fracture, it's also saying that there is a fracture that will be coming as imminent. But this fracture is going to force a connection, a coexistence, a revitalization. So, for example, if it happened on the West Coast, the people will migrate from the West Coast into areas like the Republican states that don't have high diversity, and those states, those people will start to realize, oh, my hate is not subjective, and that these people are human, and they're just like us. There is no difference between me and them. That's the thing. When segregation is a thing, people don't realize to see each other as human. They see each other as objects. Something is inferior, something that is different than them. And it's easier to attack something that you don't see as yourself than it is for something to see yourself within somebody else. The Emperor's card is saying that nature will get its payback against the U.S. That's without a doubt. That's going to actually tank the Republican Party and the control of the White House. It's going to tank it. So the environment is going to also play a major role in it. It's going to be, I think of it this way. The environment, Mother Nature is also very resistant. It could be actually engaged in resistance against 45 and what's happening in the U.S. So you can count on Mother Nature to help us along in that progression. Now, we do have here in the final ending, though, there will be those who will still be stuck, right? There will be those who will still be stuck in their ways, and those people cannot be helped. 5, 6, 7, 8. The 8 of Swords. There will be people who will be stuck in their own ways, and that is why it's the 8 of Swords. May God help us all. And here at the top of the deck here, we have a decision has been made. The fracture is becoming. This is part of our soul contract. It's part of our temperance to bring a sense of healing and balance to the United States. The United States will actually be better off for it. And here you have the Queen of Swords, healing. We got to go through this period of darkness so that the woman can come in and heal the nation. And the bottom of the deck here is we have the Queen of Wands, the spirituality, right? The faith in all of it. The faith in the country is over. But great things fall. When things fall, great things come to new. The victory is not lost forever. We may have lost the battle, doesn't mean we have lost the war. There's a lot of work to do with the 8 of Pentacles. Right? There's a lot of work to do. And with that work, the government falls, the Hierophant falls. You have to be accepting and knowing the government's fallen regardless. We can't stave it, but we can resist it. And here's the judgment. So, that's what I'm getting from the card. That's the fracture. We'll touch upon it in another part in the video. But I find it to be really informative. I really liked it. The ending being all about coming together and coexisting together. I really loved that. I think that was very beautiful. It's not what I expected, but I think it's the perfect way to end off. So I do hope you guys liked today's video. I know it's not what you expected. It's definitely not what I expected. But nonetheless, the fracture has begun. Until then, guys, I love you. Have a great night, and peace out. Look, you see a cute little heart. Love you.